Hi, I'm Bill Attardi, and this is LearnersLive.com, another session on eLearners Showcase. And we've done 8 sessions this year, and I'd like to let everyone know that we've also put them on YouTube. YouTube.com at Bill Attardi will have all the virtual learning sessions that we put on Learners Live as well. These are the ones that we've done so far, starting in January. And in July, we did You Write It, AI Fine-Tunes It, and we got lots of action on that one, lots of comments, and I thank you for those comments. And that's what it looks like for the rest of the year. Those are some of the sessions that we're planning. In August, it's going to be Competent Individual to Inspirational Leader. That's the session we're going to do right now. And I like to start with a book by Jim Collins that maybe many of you have already read. And I think I've read it a couple of times. It's From Good to Great. And he talks about 5 levels of hierarchy on the journey to inspirational leadership. It starts with highly capable individual and goes to a team member, to competent manager, to executive leader. And then I like to call it inspirational leader at level 5. But I'd like to start with a quote from A Bronx Tale, one of my favorite movies by Chaz Palminteri. He wrote it, he starred in it, he directed it, he even does a one-man act on it. And if you remember the movie, Robert De Niro played the father, and it really is a story about the relationship between a father and a son. And he said to his son, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, and the choices you make will shape your life forever. We all have certain talents, and I guess the message is are you using your talents to improve your life and to do things that you feel are important? I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible by discussing really just 2 books. I'm sure we've all read different books about leadership. I certainly have, but I just want to focus on these 2 particular books. One is Good to Great by Jim Collins, and the other is Extreme Ownership by former Navy SEALs. One of the things that I think when you read books about leadership, they ask the same question: are leaders born or are they made? And I think the answer to that is yes, to both. Certain people, certain individuals have natural ability for leadership. And that shows itself pretty early on in most people that have those natural skills, the charisma, the ability to improve, the ability to learn, the ability to influence others. And others have to develop those particular skills. They take the time and the hard work and really have a passion. Both have a passion to improve, to learn, to do what others find very difficult to do. And this is basically a journey. It's a journey, a challenging journey from competency to inspirational leadership. So let me start with Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, and the 5 levels of hierarchy. And let me start with the first level, level 1, highly competent individual. Let me assume that everybody is highly competent listening to this particular session. You have the talent and it's not being wasted. You have knowledge, skill, work hard. You've been doing that pretty much since you started kindergarten, right? Grade school, high school, trade school, if that's your choice, or college. Those are the areas where you've tried to get smarter, to get better. And I call that the value exchange. Teachers teach and you learn. And these are the things that we learn about. 2 knowns and 1 unknown. The past, the present, and the future. And when you think about those 3 things, there are times when those things have to change. And we have a thing in sports called the red flag. Whenever you feel that maybe the information you're getting is not accurate, or it doesn't really cover the subject as thoroughly as you want, or you need someone to relook at it, you throw the red flag and then you discuss it, and hopefully you get the right answer. Because what we're trying to do here is to think. Thinking is the most important thing that all of us have to do on this journey to inspirational leadership. Learning is thinking, and you learn things you just don't know about, or you confirm, and as I said, when you throw the red flag, you change what you think you do know, so that the information you gather is important to you. Eric Haller says it this way: in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. That's level 1, highly competent individual, and I'm going to assume that everybody falls in that category at the minimum. Next is a contributing team member. That's level 2. In your journey, you're going to be recognized as a team player, someone that can work well with other people, work effectively with others. Once people recognize that in you, that becomes the next level of accomplishment, because business is a team sport, highly competitive, as you know. High performers make a disproportionate contribution to the team effort. And diversity rules. The more diversity you have on a team, the stronger that particular team is. Win as a team and lose as a team. Here's a quote for someone that has won a few championships, okay? Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. I think you know who Michael Jordan is. Level 3. Competent manager. When people recognize that you're a team player, they say maybe he can also manage teams. He can manage and organize people and resources. That's your first level of leadership, really. It's called management. And management means doing things right. Success in management means you have a tendency to know what's right and do the right things. What is, what to do, and what will be. Those are the 3 things that good managers concentrate on. Being aware of your environment, make things happen, and adapt when things change, and things will always change. Opportunities, problem solving, and decision making is the cornerstone of good management. And this particular quote from one of the greatest coaches of all time: you don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Now we're up to level 4, effective leader. It's the first time I use the word leader. That's the effective leader that Jim Collins talks about. And now you're trying to stimulate high performance. As a leader, you're not only doing things right, but you do the right things. You do the right things. You have a clear vision that unites a team of managers. Now you're in charge of managers to succeed. And the quote from Carly Fiorina says, managers get the job done while leaders change the job. Leaders change the job. That's effective leadership. I like to call level 5 and the highest level of leadership inspirational leader. Personal humility plus professional will. That's what Jim Collins talks about when he talks about inspirational leaders. Here's what inspirational leaders do, and do it better than any. they set goals. And not only set goals, but they get everyone to buy into those goals. You've got to influence people to get involved in not only what the goals are, but to buy in to execute those goals. They inspire others to do more, to improve, to be better. Leaders inspire winning organizations. I think if you're part of one, you know that a lot of credit does go to that leader, even though he or she may not want to take the credit. You know that inspirational leaders really drive successful companies. And they look to master the art of growing others. And I'll talk about a thing called the coaching tree. Maybe you've heard of it, and I'll get to that in a minute. Here's a quote from the book Extreme Ownership. Leaders must take extreme ownership for their team's actions and outcomes. The coaching tree. Improving others. Before you are a leader, success is all about growing others. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. That's from one of the premier leaders in our business, Jack Welch, General Electric. In fact, Fortune had him the executive leader of the century back in the 20th century. Let me show you what I mean by a coach's tree. This is Nick Saban's coaching tree. 24 of his assistant coaches became head coaches, developed to a certain degree where they were hired as head coaches. And I highlighted the 3 that beat him in a football game. His record with his assistant coaches happens to be 24-3. So only 3 have beat him. But when you think about the accomplishment, he must feel pretty satisfied as an inspirational leader that he not only won football games and won championships, but he had the ability to develop the people that were his assistants. Here's another coaching tree. Maybe you heard the name Bill Belichick. Most people don't give Bill a lot of credit for this, but he has a nice tree too. And the one on the top is Nick Saban. When he was at Cleveland, Nick was his assistant coach. And now these particular coaches also became head coaches because of the teaching and the coaching of Bill Belichick. And here's the one that I think is the biggest of all. And you've heard the name Bobby Knight from Indiana. Guys like Bill Parcells, when he was at Army and he was the athletic director, Bill Parcells was the coach. Mike Krzyzewski, one of the greatest coaches of all time, also worked as an assistant for Bobby Knight. And you can go down the list. These are accomplishments that I think most inspirational leaders have the greatest pride in, that they've been able to grow others. As I've done with all these sessions, I always go into artificial intelligence. That's where I got you write it and let AI fine tune it. And I did that with this particular book. I asked AI, and I asked 3. I asked Croc, Chat, GPT, and Gemini, what are the core leadership lessons from good to great? And let me go through them one at a time very quickly. First, personal humility plus professional will. Every inspirational leader has those 2 qualities. Incredible ambition for the company's success. Very ambitious, okay? Incredible ambitious for the company's success. The Stockdale paradox. Maybe you read about Admiral James Stockdale, prisoner of war in Vietnam, that never ever gave up hope that one day he would be free. That's what they call the Stockdale paradox. Maintain unwavering faith in the eventual success of your business. Take responsibility for failures and credit others when things go well. Prioritize getting the right people on the bus before you figure out where you're going. Getting the right people on the bus in your organization, on your team. Put their best people on their biggest opportunities. Opportunities, not the biggest problems, but the biggest opportunities. And moving out individuals who don't fit the company's values or perform to high standards. You know that every sports team does that on an ongoing basis. If you want to win championships and you want to be on a winning team, you got to have people that are very highly capable, and that's with high standards that meet your particular goals and objectives. The hedgehog concept was also, AI said, is what you are deeply passionate about, what you can be the best in the world at, and what drives your economic vision. That's the hedgehog concept that is expressed in Good to Great. The culture of discipline. Disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. You have to have self-made, motivated individuals that commit to that excellence, engage in critical thinking, and a consistent execution. Execution of the strategy, very important in every organization, and that's what drives inspirational leaders. The flywheel effect. Sometimes it's just small, consistent, disciplined actions that lead to those final conclusions of success. Encourage open dialogue and debate where the truth can be heard. That's very important in every business. And finally, set up their successors for even greater success. That's the growing others part of inspirational leadership. Extreme ownership. The content is very interesting in this particular book, and I hope you pick it up to read it. It's about two former Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And they break it down into three parts: the mission, the principle, and the application to business. When you read this book about what Jocko and Leif went through during the Iraqi war, the mission, the leadership qualities, this is one of the highest decorated Navy SEAL units in the history of the Iraq war. They are really inspirational leaders. And what they do is lay out in the beginning of every chapter the combat that they had to go through. How they even came back alive, to me, is really unbelievable. I hope you read the book to get a good sense of that. And then they go on to the principle, the lessons they learned, and then the application to business, the goal, what and the why of why successful businesses are successful. Powerful leadership principles from the battlefield to business and to life. That's what this book is all about. And let me quote some of the philosophy of leadership that these Navy SEALs talk about in the book. One is, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. If you put together a highly competent team and the team doesn't succeed, the onus is on you, the leader, because there are no bad teams, there are only bad leaders. That's a concept that may be hard to put your arms around, but think about it, and makes you much stronger as an inspirational leader if you have that particular attitude. Leaders must take full responsibility for their team's actions and outcomes, including mistakes and failures. That's what extreme ownership is all about. This approach emphasizes accountability, proactive problem solving, and the importance, very important, clear communications in achieving success. The principles of extreme ownership can be applied not only in military settings, and as they say in every single chapter, but also in business and in your personal life. That's why this book, I think, is something that I hope you all have the inclination to pick up and to read. Again, I dropped AI a note and said, what are the core leadership sessions for extreme ownership? And here's what AI told me. Extreme ownership. Leaders are accountable for everything. Leaders are accountable for everything. Believe in the mission. Leaders must genuinely believe in the mission, and in business, it's the objective or the goal. Keep it simple. Leaders must strive for clarity in their communications, in their plans, and in their directives. You can't communicate complex activities to a group of individuals. Keep it simple. And you have to influence and foster a buy-in and inspire action. The why, not only the what, but the why behind the mission must be understood by everybody in the organization. Check your ego at the door. Leaders must listen to good advice, accepting constructive criticism, and admit mistakes when they happen. Humility and a focus on the mission are crucial to success. Prioritize and execute. Leaders must identify and execute the highest priority tasks. Decentralize command. Leaders must empower other leaders to make effective decisions. They call that sustained high performance. You want a sustained high performance from the other leaders in your organization. Plan and set goals. Define clear directives, identify resources, anticipate risks, and develop contingency plans. And don't forget to measure the results and communicate those results to everyone in the organization. Effective communications. Leaders provide clear information to everyone. Focus on the execution. Once you communicate what your goals are, make sure you focus and have everyone in the organization focus on the execution. Decisiveness amid uncertainty. Leaders must make timely and decisive choices, even when you don't have all the information you need. You've got to do it sometimes without a clear knowledge base. And a discipline equals freedom, the ability to adapt to new challenges and fundamental disciplines. Effective planning, clear communications, and consistent execution. That's what AI says are the lessons from extreme ownership. Let me repeat that. Effective planning, clear communications, and consistent execution. Before I close, are there any questions? Please send me questions. Any comments you have about this particular session, I fully appreciate. So let me close by saying that inspirational leaders not only have a good skill set, they are expert in their skill set. And here are what I consider to be the skill set of inspirational leaders. First and foremost, they set goals. Every leader makes it very clear to the organization the goals that they expect the organization to achieve. And they get everybody in the organization to buy into those goals. That's what inspirational leaders do foremost and most important. They also look at opportunities, vision, and execution. Vision is something that that's a skill set that leaders have that most people just do not have. Think about the industrial age when the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans were running around. They were ahead of the game. They saw things that no one else saw. They were way ahead. And today in the technological age, you know that billionaires are way ahead of everybody else. It's the vision and the execution that separates them from everybody else. Look for those opportunities. The other thing that is very important for leadership is problem solving, and not only internal problem solving, but external problem solving. Every business, every life, even your personal life, you're going to have issues, you're going to have problems, internal and external. and important that you have a good grasp on those problems and you solve them on a very effective way. And the way you solve them is with good decision making, doing the right things, decision making. Those two qualities you have to be expert in if you want to be an inspirational leader. And I believe too that growing others is the real success that most inspirational leaders take the biggest pride in. That as that coaching tree that we talked about, every inspirational leader, when they know they've contributed to others and other people's growth and life to improve, that's a very satisfying accomplishment in anyone's life. So finally, my last lesson is communications is your most important skill. We all have to get smarter, folks. When you stop getting better, you stop being good. If you want that journey to be successful from a competent individual to an inspirational leader, you've got to have very good communication skills, both oral and written communication skills. Your oral communication skills are critical thinking, your public speaking, it's your influencing more than one person. You have to strengthen your written communication skills, improve your writing skills all the time, learn every day, increase your competency. And when you do that, you boast your confidence. And when you get to that journey, leadership is in the future. And don't be afraid of technology. I want to make that point because we live in a world of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Deep learning depends on the technology that we're experiencing today. And technology is very accessible to everyone. And that's how we'll all get smarter and do a better job in what we're trying to accomplish in our lives. Final quote from Extreme Ownership. You can't make people listen to you. You can't make them execute. That might be a temporary solution for a simple task. But to implement real change, to drive people to accomplish something truly complex or difficult or dangerous, you cannot make people do those things. You have to lead them. Thank you for listening and see you next time.